Today I'm here with Jeremy Herrell. Jeremy is a man that I met at church through church, and his kids started going to our local Christian school in our town several years ago, and then your family started coming to our church.
Yep.
And Jeremy hasn't even been a Christian for all that long, so he's going to talk with us today about his journey to Jesus and how God has worked in his life. Jeremy is a very soft-spoken, mild-mannered person.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with that one.
Who has his own, he's done his own video programming.
Yeah.
And I'm being facetious. He's actually very outspoken. So if you do watch any of his stuff, I think you'll see that. But I like that about you.
Thank you.
I'm definitely someone who tends to beat around the bush more and kind of make my way from the sides, but I like direct people too. I think we need both. So you're a very direct person. And what is your show? What was the name of that?
Well, for a couple of years, it was Live from America. Now, when it was Live from America, that was Jeremy before my journey to Jesus.
Okay.
And I only point that out because we'll come full circle back around. And Live from America was I wanted to do blog or rant videos about things that I saw wrong in society. Mm-hmm. And I had a very blunt approach to doing it, which kind of caught the attention of a lot of people in the country who were feeling that same level of frustration. Yeah. So it got really big in the way of numbers of people that were watching the channel. Mm-hmm. Message probably wasn't always the best because it was harping on a lot of negativity. Mm-hmm. Rather, it could have been a balance of both. What irritates us, but how can we fix it? Because if you're not part of the
solution,
then you're part of the
the problem.
Exactly. So it was Live from America, and then after doing that for a couple of years. I really wanted to really break things down to a basic level with my family. I wanted to spend more time with my family, stop doing so much music and performing and podcasting, and I wanted to go fishing and hiking. And when my wife and I made that decision to do that, is when we started our journey to Jesus.
Okay.
So it was a big transition from who I was and what I was doing to who I am and what I am doing today.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you were much more. You're still a direct person. I think that's just in your makeup, but you were a lot more negative. Might be the word.
Negative, and I mean, using and constantly using negative language too. And I don't just mean bad words, because there was plenty of that too. But negative language in the way of like, just down message, not a positive, upbeat message. Because the choice of your words, not just how you express them. Right. If you're using words like hate or dumb or stupid, and that's part of your everyday language, it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess.
It reminds me of what the Bible says, to not have corrupt communication, which is actually tearing down. It says, but instead use language that edifies, which is building up. So I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Is that you used to have corrupt communication,
exactly,
but now you have edifying communication a lot more. Yeah,
and it's positive energy and positive words spread so much faster than negative.
Yeah,
where in the human world, a negative review can get a lot more hype around it than a positive review at a restaurant. Yeah. You go to a restaurant, have 100 nice visits, nobody knows a thing. Mm-hmm. Go to a restaurant and have a terrible night because the cook was not into it or the waitress didn't want to be there or whatever, and then all of a sudden you go on and you put a negative review up and then everybody knows about it.
That's right.
So it's kind of opposite when you're talking about the real world versus a faith-based world like we're walking today. So,
well, I have to say again, I met him through church, and God is doing a lot in his life. How long have you been a Christian, though? It really hasn't been super long.
No, since October of 2016.
Okay.
So this is year 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah, this is year 4, and I talked to you about it quite a bit when I first met you. I was just full of questions.
Yeah.
had a lot of contradictions going on in my head, and I wasn't trying to find him at that point. I'd already, or he found me because I was the one lost, right?
That's right.
I was just trying to make sense of what I was reading or what I was hearing, and I couldn't. It was still kind of foggy. I couldn't really pick out the real meaning of something.
Yeah.
And or I didn't know where to go for the answers to my questions. Yeah. But my wife always says, if you just keep reading, you'll find the answer. You don't have to know exactly where it is. Just keep reading. Yeah. And that's what happened. So
you were not someone looking for God necessarily. Like you were not someone before who would have been known as like, a religious person in the past, or how would you describe yourself?
We were raised to believe in God.
Generally.
Right. There's a God.
Right.
When we were little, we went to Sunday school, and I'm talking maybe 8, 9 years old. We went to Sunday school for a few years.
Yeah.
So I always had the knowledge that God existed. But then during my teenage years, going into my early 20 years of age, I wanted to push it all away and be like, if that was really the case, then we wouldn't go. I was trying to blame everything on that just so I didn't have to believe in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I embraced a dark side for a long time. And when we'd made the decision, because it was a decision, it was a decision in the way of we wanted our kids to go to church. We didn't even believe in God. I mean, we wouldn't find our faith yet, but we wanted our kids to go to church. So we said, what bad can happen, right? They can have a good foundation. They can learn a lot of positive things. And then if they get 18, move out, they decide they don't believe in God, then that's on them at that point.
Okay.
So we did it. We were wanting to put the kids through that experience because we knew that it was only going to be positive for them. But in the meantime of us trying to find a church that we wanted to go to, or that we felt we belonged in, or that would accept newbies, we were trying to teach the children who Jesus was as a man on this earth, what he did for us. Mm-hmm. And so and I don't know if this was the right choice, but I guess it was because we all kind of had the same experience. But we sat down and watched The Passion of the Christ.
Wow. And
The Passion of the Christ, as you all know, is pretty graphic.
Yeah.
And up to that point, our kids had seen movies and stuff where people were, heroes and villains and people getting killed and this, that, and the other, and they never batted an eye. But when Jesus was getting crucified and spit on and cussed at and kicked and everything that happened to him, everybody, all the kids in the house, and myself, my wife, we were all just bawling. I looked at the kids and they were bawling.
Yeah.
And it made me start bawling.
Wow.
And when we asked the kids afterwards, why were you, what were you crying so much? You didn't know who that was. It's just a guy on TV. We were trying to challenge them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they just said, they all had the same answer really, which was, how could people do that to somebody who never did anything wrong and who wanted everything right for everybody? And that right there, when the kids said that, in so many words, when the kids said that, we were like, it's kind of
that's why
emotional just thinking about it.
It's based on the gospel. I think that movie's mainly based from the Gospel of John, and that's why it's called gospel. It's good news.
Yeah.
And you just described it.
Yeah.
Why would someone do that for us?
Exactly. And then why would somebody or a group of people want to murder that man?
That's true.
For wanting to do that.
That's
right.
And
there was a lot of questions that the kids had and we had, and we went to a church here in town, and we were there for I'd say a year. We got baptized. The funny thing about not the funny thing, but the thing about it is we don't feel like we did. Right? We were so early in our journey, and we were ultimately at a church that we didn't end up fitting in at, that we wanted to leave anyways. Mm-hmm. And we all got baptized as a family of one at one time, all 7 people. But it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like, I mean, I know everybody has a different experience.
Sure.
But even looking back on it today, it doesn't feel like we were.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of prompted us to go look for another church.
Wow.
And at that time, the kids were going to, or two of the children were going to CCA.
Yep, the Christian school. Yep.
The Christian school. And of course, Calvary Baptist, CCA.
Yeah, connected.
One and the same, really.
Yeah.
And it was, okay, well, let's try that church. And lo and behold, we found a whole bunch of great people, and
That's cool.
now all the kids are in the same school.